Hello guys, meet again with Queen MMA. In fighting sports, a knockout or KO is the most weighted part of every match, especially in MMA. Some of them even have very powerful knockout punches, which can put their opponents to sleep with them. In the UFC itself, several names hold the record for the most knockouts. But apparently, in each rank filled with more than one person. For that, we will discuss the 3 ranks with the most knockouts in the UFC. But before we continue, please click the subscribe button and activate the bell so you don't miss anything else. 3rd place, 10 knockouts. In the 3rd place, some fighters have 10 knockout wins in all of their fights. Some of the lists in this ranking have interesting names, including Francis Ngannou, Donald Cerrone Jr. dos Santos, Cain Velasquez, Michael Bisping, and Chuck Lidell. Some of these names are not surprising because most of them are heavyweight rulers in the UFC today. Francis Ngannou himself, for example, even though he is in 3rd place with 10 knockout victories, but the fighter with the nickname Predator still can add to his list of knockout victories in the following fights. This man, who once worked in a poor sand quarry in a small town in Africa, really has talent and work ethic, and the strength of an extraordinary heavyweight fighter. His status as one of the hardest-hitting fighters in the entire world deservedly earned him the most knockout wins for rank 3 in the UFC. During his 6-year career in the UFC, Francis Ngannou has proven that he is one fighter who is not easy to stop. Meanwhile, the cowboy Donald Cerrone has his place, where he is the only active fighter with 10 knockout wins in promotion. In addition to having the 3rd most knockout wins in the UFC, Donald Cerrone also broke several records in the UFC, including the fighter with the most wins in the UFC with 23 wins. Even Donald Cerrone occupies the 2nd most fights in the UFC with a total of 37 fights, behind Jim Miller with 38 total fights. In addition, Donald Cerrone is the man who holds the most knockdown landed status in the UFC. 2 other names are Cain Velasquez and Chuck Lidell. Although both have retired, they have won 10 knockout wins in their division and hold their respective positions on this list. For Junior dos Santos, despite experiencing 9 defeats and 7 of them were knockout defeats, where 4 of them are consecutive defeats in their last fight. That took his record to 21 wins and 9 losses in the UFC. In heavyweight, Michael Bisping has 10 knockout victories in the UFC, the last of which was against Luke Rockhold, as he rose to the top of the 185-pound division. Michael Bisping finally won the world title after 10 years of a career in the UFC. The 37-year-old fighter won the UFC middleweight world title after knocking out Luke Rockhold. This success made Michael Bisping the first British fighter to win a world title at the UFC. 2nd place, 11 knockouts. In 2nd place, several fighters have won 11 times. They are Thiago Santos, Anthony Johnson, and Anderson Silva. Thiago Santos, during his fight in the octagon ring, has finished 11 of his opponents by technical knockout, and he has done so in 2 different class divisions. How deadly is Santos's attack, is our discussion this time. Starting from body kicks, left hooks, to head kicks, Santos has proved everything well. Whatever it is, Santos has a mix of speed and strength at his disposal. Thiago Santos's 3 consecutive wins with technical knockouts were against Eric Andreas, Jimmy Manua, and Jan Blachowicz. The fighter, whose real name is Thiago Santos de Lima, is a Brazilian MMA athlete who currently has a record of 22 fights and 9 defeats. Anthony Johnson may be underestimated by some, and that assumption is more or less the same as mine for several reasons. Since Anthony Johnson found comfort in light heavyweight and heavyweight, now no one underestimates him. Anthony Johnson even beat Jimmy Manua, Ryan Bader, and Glover Teixeira with consecutive knockout wins. before finally he was defeated by Daniel Cormier at UFC 210 in 2017. Anthony Johnson's record to date is 22 fights and 6 defeats. Even though Anderson Silva had 3 straight defeats before retiring, even in his last 9 fights, Anderson Silva only bagged 1 win. But that doesn't diminish anyone's respect for the UFC legend. No other fighter who is 46 years old dares to fight in the octagon ring, except for Anderson Silva. At that time, Anderson Silva fought the fierce fighter Uriah Hall, despite suffering defeat. Anderson Silva is an old fighter who has successfully defended his title in 10 fights, but in the end, he was defeated by Chris Weidman until his prestige declined after that. Apart from a career that was marked by 11 defeats, Anderson Silva has a characteristic that gives color to MMA fights, especially UFC. His Muay Thai, boxing, and Taekwondo abilities make him a dominant figure in top fights. Many people respect and place Silva as the best striker fighter in MMA history. First place, 12 KOs. In the end, we entered the ranking of the first most knockout holders in the UFC, are Derrick Lewis and Matt Brown. Derrick Lewis started his MMA journey in 2009 and signed with Bellator in May 2010. Then Derrick Lewis entered the UFC in 2013. At that time he made his first UFC debut against Jack May at UFC Fox on 19 April 2014. Derrick Lewis currently has a record of 25 fights with 8 losses and 1 no contest. Derrick Lewis's most notable fight was during his victories against Travis Browne, Francis Ngannou, and Alexander Volkanovski. In fact, he also fought 2-belt holder Daniel Cormier, but lost by submission in the second round. Derrick Lewis is famous for his exciting and spectacular fights. Derrick Lewis's last fight was against Cerrone at UFC 265 and suffered a technical knockout loss in the third round. Where previously he had beaten Alexei Oleinik and Curtis Blades with back-to-back knockout wins. Derrick Lewis's next fight is against Chris Daukaus at UFC Fight Night on December 18, 2021 tomorrow. The fighter with the most knockout wins is Matt Brown. The age of 40 does not stop Matt Brown from fighting. Matt Brown set the UFC record for the most knockouts in history, which was 12 knockout victories in all of his fights. This fighter has beaten Diego Lima in the first round last Saturday at UFC ESPN 25. Although Matt Brown has been ranked as the #1 owner of the most knockouts in the UFC along with Derrick Lewis, that has not made him completely satisfied. Although Matt Brown has 12 knockout win tie-ins with former UFC light heavyweight champion Vitor Belfort and light heavyweight challenger Derrick Lewis, Brown argues that there are some Vitor Belfort wins to underline, due to his previous failed drug test. Likewise with Derrick Lewis, Matt Brown argues that, in his class, Derrick Lewis has an enemy with a lot of knockout records which will make it difficult for Derrick Lewis to add to his knockout winning record in the UFC. Well, those are some of the names that have the most knockout wins in the UFC. Who is your favorite fighter among them? Leave your comments below and like and share with your friends. See ya.